Hello, it's great to be with you again at the Grand Challenges annual meeting. I look forward to this meeting every year because it gives us a chance to share the latest on the state of the art and development for global health. This year is special in many ways. For one thing, sadly, it'll be our last meeting with Francis Collins as director of the NIH. Working with Francis for the past 12 years has been very rewarding. I'm proud of the projects that we've worked on and that we continue to work on. The NIH was already the most important funder of health science in the world, and under Francis's leadership, it has become even more innovative. That was never clearer than during the early stages of the pandemic. Francis, although you're stepping down as director, will always welcome you at Grand Challenges annual meetings. Second, we're meeting at the same time as the UN's climate meeting in Glasgow, which I just came from. Climate change is an existential threat, and the poorest in the world are already suffering, even though they did the least to cause the problem. As we work towards global health and development, we have to think at the same time about helping communities adapt to climate change. Third, as Kadesh said, this year we come together in a global health emergency. When I spoke last year, I focused on the progress. Vaccines were just about to be approved, and we hoped that those tools would be the key to ending the pandemic. Now, a year later, 3.5 million more lives have been lost, and we still have a lot of work to do to get vaccines into low-income countries, which fortunately so far have not suffered from the pandemic nearly as much as middle-income and rich countries. But, there is good news here. We are finally turning the corner on vaccine supply. Over the next 6 months, that shouldn't be the limiting factor, but it'll still be very challenging to get the coverage that we need. India, it's a glass half full. They recently reached the milestone of 1 billion vaccinations. So a lot of progress, but still more to go. These delivery systems have always been challenging as we look at our ability to get routine immunization coverage. Public health systems are not strong enough even for our normal years. And so hopefully, as we strengthen them for the pandemic, we do that in a way that is enduring. We also should keep in mind that we didn't have the right tools for this pandemic. We weren't able to make enough vaccines and allocate them to the people most at risk. Overall, the organization, the preparation in each of the areas was grossly inadequate. I believe we can prepare for the future and with the right tools be able to stop pandemics before they become widespread. However, a future pandemic could be far worse in terms of its fatality. It could be, intentionally caused bioterrorism. And so it's scary that this idea of investing in the new tools may already be dropping on people's priority list, including getting the resources we need. So I think the global health community in particular needs to speak out about the high ambition tools and how they can be beneficial even in years when we don't have a pandemic. So, COVID-19 was not the worst case. When I think about R&D for preparedness, of course, we have the 3 key categories: vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics. On vaccines, it's important to stress again that mRNA is a fantastic platform. We have to celebrate how strong that was, even though we didn't get it out to everyone in the the right priority. But carrying that forward, building on what was successful there, we have to realize that without mRNA, say this pandemic had been a decade ago, we would have been much worse off. The mRNA story is a testament not only to the importance of working on basic science, but also the private sector, early stage, high risk translational work that was done by companies like CureVac, Moderna, and BioNTech. The work, all of that work had been going on for 15 years and fortunately, turned out to be right on the edge of being able to make amazing products. And so I think we need to think now about, okay, what's missing? What is it about that platform that we need to make even better so that for a pandemic, we can do far more than we did this time. One characteristic is to use the inherent multivalent potential of mRNA to deliver a shot that could contain a number of variants of a single pathogen or target multiple pathogens. We'd love to have a vaccine that protected broadly against coronaviruses, influenza, and RSV, the key viral respiratory diseases. With the right vaccines, we could even look at huge reductions or even eradications of those viruses. Another priority is thermal stability, which would make vaccines far easier to deliver, particularly in the developing world. We can go all the way back to 2003 when one of our original grand challenges was vaccine thermal stability. And it's amazing that's still an area where we don't have a full solution. We believe microwave patches for vaccine delivery would have a number of benefits, including making them easy to administer and broadening the delivery channels. Also, that could be the vehicle we use to solve thermal stability. Although early clinical programs with prototype patches delivering measles vaccine are advancing rapidly, we need much greater investment to scale those up, optimize their manufacturing and cost, and use them for a broad set of pathogens. We faced the problem of having to deliver multiple vaccine doses during this pandemic to get people fully protected. Novel formulations of vaccines that deliver the equivalent of multiple exposures to an antigen with a single shot would greatly reduce the delivery challenge. Formulation innovators like Bob Langer at MIT are already testing such formulations in animals. So it seems like this could be an achievable medium-term goal. The challenge of vaccine protection durability has been front and center as we've seen some elements of vaccine protection wane after only 6 months. We need to learn how to manipulate immune memory so that a few vaccine doses can deliver very long-lasting protection. We also need to make vaccines that block infection and transmission more dramatically. So fundamental advances in immunology and adjuvant science are needed. The NIH and CEPI are doing on some of these work areas. They're ambitious. They deserve to attack really ambitious goals, including, I think, all the things we're talking about here. And we need to build a broader set of stakeholders behind these breakthroughs. Bringing these advances from science to impact also means having the manufacturing capacity to not only develop and approve vaccines for the entire world, but get them manufactured within 6 months. And we also have to be creative about how that kind of infrastructure can be maintained in economic and high quality, even in between pandemics. For example, we can use that capacity for some of the new vaccines that we need to invent for the remaining infectious disease epidemics, including HIV, TB, and malaria. As part of that effort to build up that capacity, we can make sure that we have manufacturing throughout the world. It would be great if this next generation, potentially on the mRNA platform against the diseases that are still very prevalent in the developing world were built in the high burden regions like Africa. And our foundation is supporting African partners in development of a global ecosystem that includes regional capabilities. You know, we never know what the next pathogen will look like, but by having these broad tools with horizontal capabilities, including the standby manufacturing capacity, we could do dramatically better than we did this time. The goal to be able to start producing a vaccine within 100 days is quite ambitious. But even if we achieve that, which won't be easy, we'll still need therapeutics to treat people with breakthrough infections. And we'll need to get those very quickly as well, particularly in the early critical months when the exponential growth of the pandemic, gets it to the point where it's completely hard to contain by normal sort of contact tracing techniques. So therapeutics still have a very important role to play. During this pandemic, the therapeutics took far too long to develop. Both our libraries weren't good enough, our trials weren't good enough. It's exciting that molnupiravir and the Pfizer antiviral look like they provide significant benefit, reducing hospitalization death by over half. And so, carrying these forward and building on that as a model is very important. Antivirals potentially can be broadly cross-reactive against large classes of viruses. And so, the funding to have those standing by tested very quickly and put into very rapid phase 2 trials that are coordinated globally, even if the outbreak's only in a few countries, not rich countries, that would be a challenge. But, a stockpile of those could make all the difference. We also need to develop bridges to those therapeutics. For example, interferons or small molecules that activate innate viral immunity and could be used against any respiratory virus with pandemic potential. This possibility of therapeutics also changes the way we think about diagnostics, because once you have a treatment that's cheap enough and in high enough volume that you can give to anyone who tests positive, then the whole testing cycle is incredibly motivated and beneficial. We have to have a connection between the results of the diagnostic test back up to our surveillance system so we understand fully what's going on with the disease. We have to build a surveillance system that connects down even to the lowest level of testing, like super low cost, sub $1 lateral flow that can be made in the hundreds of millions or even billions of units. So this means reimagining how we think about diagnostics, constant surveillance of respiratory pathogens, not just testing in clinical settings under special circumstances. And so, bringing that price down so they're available to every community in the world, making them even more accurate than the low-cost diagnostics are today. We believe this is possible. The analytic chemistry will be what we use today, PCR and more advanced lateral flow technologies. But the actual manufacturing of that, took too long, far too expensive, never got to the volumes to test entire populations over only a few month period. So once we have these low-cost diagnostics, patients will have a motivation to get tested, and we'll have a broad surveillance system that catches unusual epidemiological events quickly and then alerts a standby team of experts, who have fresh skills by working on other infectious diseases when we don't have a pandemic. I am optimistic about our ability to be better prepared. I'm optimistic about developing world health, and Grand Challenges plays a central role in how we come together to be more ambitious about this work. The setback of the pandemic is dramatic. I'm sure that's tested all of our optimism. But, I also remember the progress we've made in global health. And it really goes back to what the late Hans Rosling used to say. Things, can be both bad and on the way to getting better. Our job is to keep fighting against global health inequities today and be better prepared for the surprises of the future. So, we need to build an ambitious agenda, and the people at this meeting are the ones who need to lead the way on that. Thank you.